What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Have At It. This is episode 112. My name is Ben Cornett, and you're watching this on my YouTube channel, Ben Cornett 9015, as well as on Facebook in the Ben Zone group. How is everybody doing this afternoon? Well, we're down to the final four teams in the NFL. Today is conference championship game, and I got to say that I would say this is just as much fun as the Super Bowl, in my opinion, because you got four teams fighting for two spots in the big game. So I feel like these games are just as competitive as the Super Bowl more times than not. And I got to tell you, we got two very good games today. Um, we'll start out with before we start with that, we'll get to some NFL news because I know there's just tons of news just piling up, as we get to today. We found out earlier yesterday, I believe it was, that Mike McCarthy will be the new Steelers head coach. Just the fourth coach since I believe the Rooneys have owned the team. So this is rarefied air that we hear the Steelers having a new coach. It it makes some sense because McCarthy's from the Pittsburgh area. He grew up there, so it seems like a natural fit. It's a new era for him. Um, you know, we still don't know if Aaron Rodgers is gonna come back or not. I'm gonna assume he doesn't, and the Steelers will have to start to figure out what to do next, assuming that Rodgers does not come back, because they're gonna have to get the quarterback position filled. You still got TJ Watt on the defensive side of the football, you paying him big money. Um, you got DK Metcalf, your wide receiver. He's there on big money, so it's gonna be interesting what the Steelers do, um, going forward. We all know, John Harbaugh is now with the Giants officially, because I know they made an announcement earlier in the week, then things stalled for a minute, but he is back, with the Giants. He's signed, sealed, delivered, and the future looks pretty bright there. I think he'll do good in New York. I think he's made for that city. You know, um, it'll be interesting. He's got a quarterback already in Jackson Dart. He's got a solid defense. He'll get Malik Neighbors back after the injury last year. So, things are looking up for the New York Giants. And obviously, the big news came out uh, earlier in the week, Monday morning, that the Bills fired Sean McDermott. Uh, I mean, I'm not surprised. I think if they were going to do that, they should have done it last year. I think they did it a year too late. I think I mentioned it in my YouTube short that uh, doing it now was, you know, I felt like it should have been done last year when the Bills had a better team and still couldn't, you know, get to the Super Bowl. That was 8 years already. You know, um, McDermott just couldn't get him over the hump. You know, and then we had that outrageous press conference with Pagula, the owner, and Brandon Bean, the GM. If they were going to fire McDermott, I would have fired Bean as well. I mean, I know that McDermott came in first before Brandon Bean, but they worked together. They made all the draft picks. Um, that's what a GM and head coach does. They collaborate, see what fits for their team. So I felt they should have both went. If you're going to fire McDermott, you should have fired uh, Bean as well, in my opinion. But not only does Bean stay, but he gets promoted to president of football operations, which is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. They're doing interviews this weekend. Josh Allen, the quarterback, is supposed to be in on those interviews, which I think is a good idea. He's your franchise quarterback. You know, so I don't know. We'll see how it plays out with the Bills. I mean, this is going to be uh, quite a journey. Whoever their next head coach is going to be, we've heard a lot of names. Mike McDaniel interviewed this weekend despite um, taking he agreed to be the Chargers offensive coordinator, but he's still interviewing for head coaching jobs. So, it'll be an interesting fit to see if McDaniel does go to the Buffalo Bills. I mean, he's got his quarterback, he's going to have to get some receivers, especially if, let's say Keon Coleman's not there after the team threw him under the bus, Um, but we'll see how it plays out. Buffalo needs more weapons on offense. They became too Josh Allen reliant uh, over the last couple years, and it's shown. The defense hasn't been great either. It hasn't been Super Bowl level, especially this year. The roster was not as good, and it was also the easier path for the Bills. Could argue they should have won that game against Denver. They had their moments, but Josh Allen turned the ball over 4 times, and when you do that, you're not going to win games, especially in the postseason. So we'll see how it plays out. Speaking of Mike McDaniel, obviously as a Bucks fan, that was the big deal this week. Mike McDaniel decided to take the Chargers OC job for now. I say for now again because he's interviewed with the Buffalo Bills for the head coaching position, but also, the Bucks reportedly were really high on Mike McDaniel. They made a great offer to him from reports that I've heard, and from listening to people in Tampa radio, that it was a good offer, really good offer to make McDaniel the offensive coordinator, but he turned it down. And instead, we got Falcons OC, Zach Robinson, who was on the Falcons last year on Raheem Morris' staff, but they both were let go. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think there was a realistic chance they were going to get Mike McDaniel. I mean, for one, he has head coaching aspirations. He wants to be a head coach. He's not going to take any head coaching job. Browns, but it's one of those things where also we got to remember. And I heard that Todd Bowles only makes like $3 million a year. Are they going to pay a head coach that's or an OC that's going to make more money than the head coach? That's another thing you got to think about. So they went with Zach Robinson, and I had a feeling that was who it was going to come down to. My predictions were going to be Zach Robinson or Brian Callahan, the Titans' old head coach. I know Dan Pitcher was interviewed as well. He's the Cincinnati OC, although he wasn't really calling plays. That was Zach Taylor, the current head coach for the Bengals. But I feel like with Zach Robinson, it wasn't my first choice or my second choice, but it was the best of what was remaining. And he comes from that Rams lineage with Sean McVay. And Baker was there in 2022 for like 5 games, worked with Zach Robinson when he was like, I believe, the quarterback's coach. So there's a little familiarity there. And reportedly Baker signed off on it. So there you go. Zach's the new OC. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Again, Bulls is on the hot seat right now. As of right now, they got to win. They got to win the division. They got to have some decent showing in the playoffs next year, in my opinion, if Bulls is going to stay put. So, and that's another thing why Mike McDaniel may turn down the Bucks. There's no guarantees that Bulls would be back in 2027. Not a lot of stability right now. So, again, I know Bucks fans really wanted Mike McDaniel. I get it. But, I realistically didn't see it. And Zach Robinson is the best of what was left, in my opinion. So he worked with Baker. That's familiarity. That's a plus. So he already knows the system. They're going to probably incorporate more of Liam Cohen's offensive scheming in the playbook. So we'll see how that goes. Corey on Facebook, thanks Corey for tuning in. Says Bucks 6-11 in 2026, 2027. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Again, still a lot of questions with players that are free agents, like Mike Evans. Will he be back? Levante David, is he coming back? He might be retiring. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the next couple months to see where this Bucks team is going to be. They're obviously going to have to get better defensively, especially the pass rush. Which was horrific last year, and one of the reasons why we did not play well down the stretch, couldn't get to the quarterback. But it wasn't just the defense. The offense, was not very good at either. Baker Mayfield wasn't very good either, and he's going to be on the last year of his current deals. So, he's going to have a big year as well if he wants to get a new contract, a bigger contract with the Bucks. So this is on a lot of, pretty much on everybody, but it's a team effort here, or lack thereof, that brought us down. So we'll see how it plays out. Now, getting to that, we still have openings in the NFL. Obviously, there's still 4 head coaching jobs that are currently vacant right now. The Raiders, Cardinals, the Buffalo Bills. Forget who else is out there. I know there's 4 of them. So there's Raiders, Cardinals, Bills, Browns. So 4 of them are still available. I got a feeling we're going to see those get filled. If not all of them, at least 2 or 3 of them at the beginning of this coming week. So I live here in Vegas right now. They're interviewing a lot of people. I heard McDaniel turn down the Raiders head coaching position to interview. So, okay. And there's a lot of names right now. Scala Haas, the Rams' current OC guy, or the current, with the Rams offense. So just a lot of other names going around. Todd Monken had a couple of interviews with the Browns already. So, sort of Jim Schwartz. Whoever's going to be the next coach of the Browns going to be inheriting quite a mess. So, the one good thing is their defense is solid. You got Myles Garrett. So we'll see how it plays out. But we're going to get to the conference championship games here, my predictions, because in less than an hour from now, the games are about to start. So let's get right to it. We got the Patriots, Broncos. Obviously, the Broncos are going to have Bo Nix now. He's out for the year with a broken ankle. So Jarrett Steedham's going to start his first start the first time he's going to be playing since 2023. He was with the Raiders that year. So there you go. Drake May and that defense, I'm telling you, defense travels. It travels on the road. Now, before the playoffs started, I did pick the Rams and the Broncos to be the representatives in Santa Clara. Will I stick with it? I will let you know in a few minutes. But before I do that, shout out to Zagnif Productions, Mr. Cornett. What's the good word? The good word is I appreciate you coming on, Zagnif. Thanks for being there in the comments section. Appreciate it. I know you're doing your stuff on the NFL Roundtable. Some great stuff. Not sure how you feel about Stefanski as the new head coach, but quite a hire. We'll see how it plays out in Atlanta. But thanks for tuning in, Zagnif. So with that being said, let's get to my predictions here. Patriots at the Broncos. Now, Denver is the number 1 seed. They earned that right. Again, beating Buffalo in overtime last week. great game. Patriots took care of the Houston Texans last week in Foxborough. Um, the weather's supposed to be around the 20s, upper 20s in that game. So should be sunny skies and clear in Denver. So it's a lot better than the weather they've been getting out in the Midwest and Northeast. And by the way, my thoughts and sending out good vibes to everybody out there. I know my dad lives in Oklahoma. They have that big snowstorm. I know Zagnif's in Oklahoma as well. Stay safe out there. Hope you got your supplies and yeah, stay warm. Stay safe because it's supposed to be getting intense in the next couple days. So sending out good vibes to you guys. Zagnif's with the comment. How do I feel about Stefanski? Almost tempted to yell, unfire Raheem Morris. Oh, yeah. I mean, boy, I don't hate it because, again, Stefan, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it was the Browns, but he did take them to the playoffs, help him take to the playoffs twice. So, that's a lot better than what other Browns head coaches did, So, say what you want about the way he handled, Shador and that quarterback situation, but I always felt he was handcuffed. It's ownership. That's the problem with the Browns. It's always going to be the ownership there. As long as Cleveland keeps continuing to struggle, it's going to be because of ownership. And if they struggle next year, they can't blame Stefanski, So we'll see how he does in Atlanta. I think he's going to, I think he's got a better roster. But again, it comes down to ownership. How much patience are they going to have with Stefanski? I only had, 2 years of patience with Raheem, in my opinion. So we'll see how it plays out. And okay, our big snowstorm turned out to be what would be back to business next day in Virginia. Okay, so that's good. That's good. My dad lives in Mustang, Oklahoma, which is, I think it's about 20, 30 miles outside of OKC. So, yeah, but anyway, just stay safe out there. Everybody who's on the East Coast and Midwest, because it's supposed to get intense the next couple days. That's why I'm blessed to be here in Vegas, where it's about the low 50s right now and clear. So I'm very thankful and blessed. But I know a lot of people aren't as blessed, so keeping my thoughts with them today and the next few days. So anyway, back to the Patriots Broncos. This is going to be a game where we're going to see Steedham against Drake May. One great thing Denver has going for them is their defense. They are very good at stopping the run. As far as the pass defense, not as great, but it's still pretty good. And Drake May is going to have to take care of the ball today. But I do expect him to run the ball with Stevenson and Travion Henderson. They're going to need a big game out of those two running backs. And for the Broncos, I mean, without, Bo Nix, the run game's got to be good, with Beatty as well. Those guys got to run the ball. Denver has to get off to a good start, especially when you have a backup quarterback. You have to, keep New England's offense off the field, keep Denver's offense on the field. If you're Denver, run the ball. Don't ask Jarrett to do a lot, because that's where, a backup quarterback's going to make those mistakes, is when he's got when he's asked to do too much. And I don't think Sean Payton's going to put him in that position, but they got to run the ball today. They got to get turnovers. Drake May, he does turn the ball over offensively. He had one turnover last week. So, it can happen. That defense for Denver can't create those turnovers. But they do got to clean up the penalties as well. They had, I think, like 7 or 8 last week against Buffalo. So they got to be, more disciplined, and, disrupt Drake May's rhythm. If they can stop the run and force Drake to throw the football, Denver has a great chance to pull this win out. So I am going to stick with Denver today, although I should pick New England to win this game. I think they're healthier. They got the better team right now. But because I picked the Rams and Broncos to win, to get to the Super Bowl before the playoffs started, I'm going to stick with the Broncos. I'm going to go 20-17. That's my score. Denver over New England. With that being said, our other game, again, by the way, the Broncos Patriots, they start at 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time or Mountain Time on CBS. And the other game will start at 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. It's the Rams and Seahawks, the third matchup in this NFC West rivalry. This is going to be a great game. Both teams fully healthy. Both teams know each other very well. Both teams split the season series, each winning at home. You got two very good quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold. Now, reports have said that Sam Darnold's still dealing with an oblique injury, and he's had to split reps with Drew Lock this week. So that's something to keep an eye on. And also to keep an eye on, the one injury Seattle does have is Zach Charbonnet is out for the rest of the postseason with the leg injury. So it's going to be Kenneth Walker getting the majority of the carries. I think Martinez is their other running back that will get some playing time as well. But I'll tell you, man, what the Seattle did to that 49ers offense last week, and I was banged up. Obviously, no George Kittle, but the way they dominated, I mean, that defense is for real. They really are. And it's a scary defense, getting to the quarterback, the way Mike McDonald, his defense just plays so well. They attack you. They're very disciplined. They send everybody at times on the blitz. And they're smart too. They're a smart defensive team too. It doesn't commit a lot of penalties. So that's what makes this team so dangerous. And offensively, obviously, if Sam Darnold doesn't turn the ball over, which he didn't do last week, it's going to be very difficult for the Rams, in my opinion. Now, for the Rams, huge win in overtime in Chicago last week. People say, well, the Rams can't play in cold weather, but they proved everybody wrong. They can, and they did. You could argue last year they could have beat Philly in Philadelphia. So the Rams know how to play. Matt Stafford's been in the NFC North. He's played in Chicago and Green Bay before, so he's used to it. That's not an issue. But I will say that now you got to go to Seattle a second time. And if the Rams, they got a great defense too with Jared Verse, one of the best defensive players in the NFL, without a doubt. Their secondary is very good as well. Kobe Bryant. They got guys that can, defend the receivers. And that's going to be key today too, is for Seattle. Sam Darnold, not only does he not have to, turn the ball over, but he's going to have to get the ball out quick. The offensive line's got to protect him. And I mean, I know it's simple stuff, but it's the truth, and they do got to run the ball well, keep the time of possession. Meanwhile, the Rams, their offense, you got two great receivers, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. You got Kyron Williams. He's got to have a big game today. Run the football. Their tight ends, got to do just as well, blocking and catching the football. Sean McVay will spread out that offense. I think he's going to pass a lot too, because he feels like even with Seattle's defense, Matt Stafford can get the ball out quick. And Puka can, outrun these defenders, outrun the secondary with his speed, and same with Devontae Adams. So this is an offense that can score points. The question is going to be, as long as Matthew Stafford gets that ball out on time, you know, and the Rams score points, they got a chance to win this game. You know, I know it's in Seattle. I know Seattle's on a roll right now, but I did pick the Rams. I'm still going to stick with the Rams to win this game. It's going to be one of those high scoring games. I'm going to go 34-31. That's how I see it. I bet the over on this game. So I got Seattle. Oh, I got the Rams over Seattle today, 34-31. And I got the Broncos over the Patriots, 20-17. And I'm going to stick with my Super Bowl picks. So it's Rams and Broncos winning these games today. So with that being said, I'm about to head out because, right now it's almost quarter after 11 here, Pacific time. We got 45 minutes to go before game time. I got a pot roast to check on, making one of those today. I've been craving that for a while now. I was like, man, this pot roast sounds so good, especially in cold weather. What am I saying? It's warm compared to other parts of the country, but still, get a nice pot roast going. Got the carrots, celery, mushrooms, onions. Got mashed potatoes I'm going to be making in a while, so it's going to be a nice dinner, while I'm watching the games. So it's going to be a lot of fun today. One more time, my predictions today: Broncos over the Patriots 20-17, and the Rams over the Seahawks 34-31. With that being said, everybody, I am out. Enjoy the games today, and let's just see what happens. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time here on Have At It. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys.